Good afternoon. Welcome to another fabulous Raw Awards breakout session. I'm thrilled to introduce one of my favorite people. She's definitely my favorite Kiwi on the planet, the beautiful Kylie Mowbray-Allen. Welcome, Kylie.
Thanks, Dee. It's great to be here.
Kylie, thank you so much for giving your time this afternoon. For those that don't know anything about you, you've definitely done lots of things in your life. You've had such an eclectic history, and it's definitely brought you to where you are now. But can you share a little bit about who you are and what you do for everyone?
Yes, absolutely. My business is Hello Media, and I am a business coach that specializes in digital marketing. But I wasn't always that. So way a million, it feels like sometimes a million years ago, but in the early days back in New Zealand, my dad was a film producer. So I grew up in that world, and then I did a journalism diploma and then a degree in communications, and I majored in radio and film. And then off I went to England for my first job, and it was one of those, wow, who would have thought scenarios, because my boss took me out for lunch. It was a film company. My boss took me out for lunch on the first day out. I was 21, brand new, fresh off the boat or plane from New Zealand. So little old Auckland to arriving in London. He took me out for lunch and he said, so in 4 days, we're leaving for Sardinia. We'll be there for 4 days. Then we'll be back for 3 days. And then we're off to Hungary. And I was just sitting there going, what? And then he said, so it ended up being 22 countries in my first year that I was there, 18 countries in the next year, and basically went from being like a production assistant right through to producing this weekly TV show called Powerboat World. So it was a Formula One World Powerboat Championship and then the European Jet Ski Championship. Now it was all men and me. It was extraordinary. There's like all the team. It was a very male dominated sport. It was quite mind blowing. My boss was so cool that he would always take an extra day before and after to take me sightseeing and get a bit of a feel for the country, which was so amazing. And then I moved to Sydney after that, and I worked for some amazing companies down there. And then I set up my own film company. Moved up to Byron with that film company and thought, wow, this will be great. And it wasn't, because I didn't realize that the little local networks up here based in Lismore, you could make an ad for TV and they would charge you $100. They had 5 different templates, or they didn't call them templates back then, but basically you would choose 1, 2, 3, 4. There was 5 lots of music, bit of a script, and all of them at the end, the last final scene was you standing out the front of your whatever as business owners or the team or whatever. Like, they were just so classic. So how could you then charge 10 grand for some phenomenal series of ads when actually you could get one for $100? Like, it was just shocking. So the work was a little bit thin on the ground. So I realized that I can't just be a film production company. I also needed to do more. And obviously I was already a writer, so that was good. And I had already been working in magazines because I'd moved from TV over to magazines for a while. So then I decided to do a graphic design course and add all of that. And then as websites were starting, I got into that as well. And so then what happened about 13 years ago, my husband broke his neck playing rugby in Byron, and so Byron's about 2 hours south of Brisbane. So he was airlifted off to a hospital in Brisbane where he stayed for a year. So our daughter was 4 at the time. And so her and I moved up there, lived just near the hospital so I could learn, what was going to be involved in the rest of his life. And that was kind of when I started thinking about, what am I going to do now? Because I can no longer go away and work on films. And I used to travel from Byron and do 2-week projects working on a Peter Pan film or whatever, like lots of different things going on in that space. So I thought, what I need to do, because I need to be able to work from home, but be there. So I decided to do this little business that I'd already used, this particular nappy bag when my daughter was born, and I loved it. And she was a market-based business. So I thought that'll be good. It was for sale. I bought it. And then I just knew I could do a couple of markets a month, and that's all. But I didn't realize I was going to hate markets. Like, really, I love going to markets, but I hate doing markets. So I decided very quickly I needed to use my background skills and grow that business fast. And I did grow it so fast. So I started designing products like big time. So I went from a nappy bag to, I think in the end when I sold it, there was like nearly 200 products. And then I moved it all offshore and went all fair trade, manufacturing in some amazing places with some amazing people. Then I started traveling with it and doing, when I met Dee, it's because we were doing expos, but then I moved heavily into wholesale, and that's when my business really took off. And I had about 500 stockists around Australia and a distributor in Korea, and it was going really well. I moved it up to a warehouse in Brisbane so that I could get it ready to sell. And I sold it 2 years ago, which was super awesome, because during that time, I'd started Hello Media maybe 4 years ago, but I'd actually been doing it for years, just in behind the scenes, but under the name of the other business. And I was like, I just can't be dealing with the juggle anymore. And I've got to do where my heart is, which is staying within the digital marketing thing. So off Rainbows and Clover went, and then full time only for the last 2 years on Hello Media, which I've loved. So I started mostly doing social media management. And but then I got asked more and more and more to be helping people with their whole stuff. So I also design websites, like Shopify is really my specialty there. But so I work with people. So I've stopped off the social media management, and now I just do coaching sessions one-on-one or group coaching, and we can literally work through everything from your branding all the way through to how you present your business to the world. So anything that's to do with it being online. So whether it's your website, your writing for your content, your blog, your newsletter, your social media strategies, all of that, except not TikTok. I don't go down that road, but all the rest of it, well, not all of it, mostly Facebook and Instagram. Anyway, really, really love it. And then on the side, I have a women's meetup group called Positive Passionate Women in Business, which is just a beautiful way to connect women up and do things. And then on the side of that, I do a not-for-profit organization called the Bangalore Lionhearts that my husband and I started, and we feed people in need. So we've been doing it for about 3 years, and we average about 60 meals a week that go as it goes out. And I run the whole thing through a Facebook group. So we have about 400 volunteers that cook, and it's quite extraordinary and a beautiful thing to be involved in. And there you go. That was me. Woof.
And did I mention that Kylie's had a very eclectic and colourful life? That is amazing. You've done some incredible things. I think the one thing I would say about you, Kylie, is you do everything with such passion. When you decide you're going to do something, you are all in, and you really drive it from such a heart-centered, passionate perspective. So I'm not surprised you have a passionate women's group up there that you run as well. You'd be the perfect advocate in that space. I'd love to know, we've obviously, this year's been such a, flipped us all on our head. And for a lot of people in your industry, there's been just such an influx in people going from that safe bricks and mortar platform to now having to pivot their businesses online in that e-commerce space. Can you tell me what you think the biggest challenge is in your industry right now for business owners when everybody seems to be wanting to be online?
Yes. So when COVID first started and people were flooding to me, what's the word, flocking to me or whatever, and going, my business has literally died overnight. And I'm like, no, it hasn't. You just need to find a new way of looking at it and a new way of presenting. And I mean, I'm not even going to tell you one, because I told you one, I'd tell you 50 of businesses that I've been able to help turn it completely around, and now they're absolutely booming. And it has been so beautiful to be part of that and watch them just soar, but in completely new ways. I'll just give you one tiny example of someone that had just finished getting her, it might have been, well, she's two things. One of them is she's a happiness coach. Is there a more beautiful title to be in the world than a happiness coach? And she's literally the happiest person you would ever meet. So she was the happiness coach, but also Pilates. So she just finished setting up her studio and and all these different things. And then of course, COVID, and she was not online at all. No interest in social media, no interest in a website or anything. She's like, no, I'll just put flyers up and people will come. So I said, what you've got to do, and this is what I've been then telling everybody, because this is what I see as people struggle, but this is also how to fix that struggle, is what can you offer that's free? What can you do that gets people to see you and know, like, and trust you, and then therefore they want to either work with you or buy from you or know more about what you do, and how can they get involved with you? So for me, I started a 1 hour a week free webinar every Monday afternoon, and anyone was welcome. And it was on Zoom. Of course, you had to register so that we don't have any Zoom bombers coming in. But what that meant is that I was getting everyone's email address. Because I always say to people, without having a massive email database, you've got nothing, because you don't own your socials. Anything can happen at any point with that. You just need to keep growing that email database. So the primary objective of your website should be, first and foremost, before selling a product or something like that, should be, I need to collect the email addresses so that they can come back to me later, or I can then reach them later on. But so of course, the first thing is Zoom, get the email addresses. So each week I was doing a different topic, and very much in the beginning was about that pivot. So I was offering this free stuff. Now, I did not think for a second that my business would start growing at that point, because at the end of the day, I just figured I'm putting it out there, helping as many people as I can. And when the time is right for them, and if they want to work with me, then they can. But otherwise, keep coming to this free stuff as much as you want. So all these months later, I'm still going with that. And I think now we're up to number 34 or something of the digital marketing webinars. It was meant to be a 6-week thing, but whatever, I'm loving it and it's great. So each week's a different topic, like Google My Business or Instagram stories, or, you know, how to do your own website audit and all kinds of ththings. So that was the first thing, was what can you offer for free and put it out there? So there's one particular girl that I was telling you about. I said to her, all you're going to do is we're going to set you up with a little Facebook page and stuff. And then you're going to start doing it live. And you're going to do a Pilates class, like whether it's every morning or whether it's even only 10 minutes. Come on, guys, we're all sitting at home working on our computers. Get up now and have a stretch. And this is how you need to do it, or whatever. Anyway, she now has got the most incredibly successful business. She's running these coaching groups where you come in and you not only get happiness coaching and hypnotherapy and all these stuff, but then you get your daily exercise, and they're like groups of 4 people only. And she's booked out endlessly and doing really, really well out of it. And all of it's run through a Facebook group. She didn't need to set up a whole membership platform or anything like that, just from a Facebook group. So I think that's a beautiful example of someone that didn't know anything about it, and more to the point, didn't even want to know, to realizing I've got to do a little bit of it, and then I'm going to try this. And then, wow, it was just amazing watching her blossom. And had COVID not happened, that would have not have happened for a business, because she wasn't made to do that. So that has been one of the really beautiful things coming out of it, is watching people, if they take that little piece of advice, is what can you offer that's free? So when we look at our funnel, though, for example, all the stuff up the top of your funnel should always be your free stuff, where you're visible, where people are seeing you, you know, whether it's in Facebook groups and Facebook pages or whatever. Like for me with webinars, it could be that you've got a podcast or anything, whatever you're offering up there. The more of that you can do, the more people that it will attract you. And that's what we're trying to do at the end of the day, is attract people to us, not have to go and chase them and find people. So that is probably my one big thing that I found, that people weren't visible enough. So they needed to really focus on getting more visible. And as soon as they did, people would start coming to them. Yeah.
Brilliant. I love that you talked about offering the free content. I'd love to know what you feel is, you know, one mistake that business owners are making right now in this space. Is there anything where you're consistently seeing people come to you and that mistake is being made? Because I think it's quite overwhelming for business owners that go, social media is not my jam. You know, I even look back when you had Rainbows and Clover and I had Nibbly Bits and we used to own Facebook. I used to feel like the queen of Facebook. I felt like we just had it in the pocket. It was all free. It was so easy. We were all so reliant on that. And then bam, Mark Zuckerberg decides he's going to monetize everything, and now everyone's going to pay. And I remember freaking out and going, like, all of a sudden, you know, we used to run, you know, promos and things, and our reach was amazing. And then all of a sudden it just went cricket. Everyone was scrambling. Do you notice anything that people are doing that might be a mistake in how to get started, or what they might be offering for free?
It's because they're not offering for free. Because what they do is they try and sell all the time because they're feeling desperate. So I need to tell people about my product all the time. Or I need to tell people about my service or my class or whatever they're offering all the time. So it's sell, sell, sell. And if you think about walking into a shop and the first thing the shop person says to you is, do you need a cardigan that's yellow? And I'm like, no, but hello and how are you? And are you having a nice day? Would have been nice. And then what about I go, no, thank you. I'm not looking for a yellow cardigan, but I'm just browsing. And then they go, do you need green pants? And I'm like, no, I just said I was having a browse. So at that point, I'm either going to leave altogether, or I'm just going to go, hey, just hang on. Or I might say, actually, I'm looking for a purple top. And that will engage me like that. So if you think about that, but put it to online, if you're just bombarding people endlessly, then they're either going to quickly unfollow you, stop knowing what you do. They're going to unsubscribe from your newsletters as well. And they don't want anything more to do with you. And that is a shame. So instead, you follow my little rule, which is the 80-20 rule. So 80% of the time, you are edutaining. So you're either educating them or entertaining them. It could be like with Rainbows and Clover in my blogs and in my newsletters, it would be like 5 ways or 5 something steps to make a beautiful fairy house. I didn't sell any of the things that went inside a fairy house. It was literally soil and stones and whatever. But the audience that liked my natural, sensory products loved that sort of stuff. It might be how to make homemade Play-Doh. I don't sell Play-Doh cutters or anything, but it was just always giving what you could that you knew that your audience would be loving. So that was great. So that's sort of the educating, but it's also the entertaining. So then 20% of the time is when you're doing the selling and not the other way around. So what I find people's biggest mistake is they're trying to sell 80% and do other stuff 20%, or they're trying to sell 100%, and nobody is attracted to that. We're all turned off by that. So if you were selling rugs, I don't need to buy a rug every day, do I? But you might do such great posts that I really want to keep following you. You might teach me how to clean my rug. You might teach me how to repair my rug. You might teach me even about when you're tired of your rug in that room, move it to another room, and all you've got to do is mix up the cushions and whatever, and voila, you've got a whole different look for your room or whatever. Who knows? I'm not an expert in rugs. But the point being, I'm enjoying all the things I'm learning from that rug person. And I'm getting tips and I'm getting tricks, and I'm like going, yeah, that's good. And then all of a sudden, 6 months down the track or whatever, I need to buy a rug. So who's in the top of my mind? They are. Or my friend needs to buy a rug. So I'm like, oh, you should see these guys because they're great. So that's the whole thing about being known, so that people can know, like, and trust you by watching what you're up to, not by being bombarded with the selling. So definitely, I think that's what is the number one where people go wrong. And that's not just social media. That's also in their emails and their everything is just trying to sell too much.
Edutaining, the word of the day. I love that word. I'm going to use that. That's so brilliantly put. Kylie, I would love to know, I constantly hear from people that they sit in these self-limiting beliefs, that they are really nervous about putting themselves out there as business owners and being the face of their brands, and they'd rather be behind the scenes than in the front. And I remember when you had your product-based business, and now through Hello Media, you've never been shy to share behind the scenes things and really draw your customers into all the parts of your business. But what advice would you have for somebody who might think, oh, like, I've got bad hair, I've got a wrinkle, I've got a pimple, I don't know what to say, what do I talk about? What's some advice around trying to just break the ice and start to put yourself out there more so that you can engage with your audience? Do you have any advice about, you're obviously very bubbly and great at speaking, but I'm sure you have days where you think, oh, I don't want to talk and go live, but you still do. So what are some of the things that you think might spark a little fire for people out there that might be listening?
Well, that is intriguing that you see me that way, because I actually never, ever do selfies, ever. It's very rare that you'll see pictures of me, more than 3 pictures. And one was from a photo shoot 5 years ago, and one was from 3 years ago. And there's only a few of them that I'm actually happy to use, and I turn them all into black and white almost. And they're the same photos that I use over and over in all of my promo stuff. And so I feel really like a lot of other people, it's not about me. I don't want to be putting me all over everything. And I know some other business coaches and all kinds of different business entrepreneurs and stuff, that it's them literally. As soon as you go onto their Instagram account, the entire 9 pictures that you see are different versions of their own selfies. And I find that such a turnoff. It it doesn't speak to me that at all. It's just like, so I'm not actually wanting to buy whatever product you use in your hair or whatever. Like, I'm more interested in what's actually going on other than that. So I want to see some graphics that are showing some tips. I love quotes. Not everybody does. So I want to see some quotes mixed in with it, because when I share quotes, that's you getting to know me, because they're the quotes that resonate with me. And then are they also going to resonate with you? So yes, it's true that I'm out there all the time in terms of on Zoom, but also you only see this bit of me. So in fact, my pants that I'm wearing today are really odd with this top. I was like, oh, that's, when I went into it before, and I was like, that's an odd combo. And I was like, well, I guess no one can see that, which is good. But yeah, and the other thing is I am just me. Like, I've got no makeup on, clearly. I'm just, it just is how it is. But I don't think that, but I do have an element of vainness, is that I'm not just going to take a selfie here and go, oh yeah, that'll be lovely, I'll put that on. It's definitely not my thing. It's just not where I sit comfortably. And I just don't think it's relevant. I know it is for some, like it really is relevant that they want to put themselves out there all the time, but I just don't want to. So now that I've told you that about my 3 photos that are just on repeat, but like I do the flip them and I might color them up a little bit, like make it grayscale, one make them blue or something. So somehow they look like there's more than 3. So I do need to do a new photo shoot soon. So probably that's my top tip, would be go and have a proper professional photo shoot.
There's definitely value, I think, in having really nice photos of yourself done. But you're right, it's hard because we're really self-critical of ourselves too. So even, you know, I had a professional photo shoot done last year and I felt like I looked 5 years old and scared, to be honest. So I kind of got the photos back and went, I look like a grade 2, and these were supposed to be like for raw. And I was like, oh, I don't really know. But I think what I like about the social media shift and the change is, like you said, it does allow you to share a little bit more, you know, the quotes like you talked about. Do you have any tips on how to get started from a perspective of creating content so that you have things to share? It gets really exhausting if you're trying to do social media every single day. And we're told repeatedly from gurus and, you know, you need to post every day. It's really hard to not be organized and think, oh God, I've got to post something. Do you have a tip about, do you work to kind of put an hour or 2 into like creating content to then be able to roll out? Or are you that, let's do it on the daily? Do you have a ratio of, you know, quotes to graphic to tips to, you know, photos? Is there a secret formula that you can share without giving too much away?
No, I'm happy to give it all away. That's fine. So we use this really cool and free platform called Airtable. So that's not a good word for my accent. So that is AIR table. And it's similar to Excel, but not at all. And you can color code it and all of that. So we aim to work always a month in advance, but generally it's like a week in advance. So, well, for example, it might be Motivation Monday. So that's easy, isn't it? Because suddenly you know it's going to be either a quote or a, you know, some kind of mindset thing about get cracking for the weekend. And one thing I never, ever, ever do is talk negatively about, oh God, it's Monday and here we go. Just equally, I never do the whole, yay, it's Friday, thank God it's the weekend. Because to me, I love Mondays. It's all about let's get stuck in. I've got so many ideas for the week and I can't wait to work with my clients and blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, let's just be positive whatever day of the week it is, because it's a gift that we've got a day in here anyway. So I always like to do my Motivation Monday. And so that's an easy way to get going, isn't it? Because there's just so many things that it could be. Tuesday could be like a top tip Tuesday. That's an easy one as well. Wednesday, that could be like a self-promo day. It can be where it's like either a product or a you about the service you're offering or about your coaching or whatever it is that you do. Thursday is always a good one to do something about someone else. So Facebook, love it when you share other people's stuff. So I might do it on Thursday, a shout out for one of my clients and share one of their things. And I can't tell you how well those perform. And I usually do it into my group and people are like, yes. And then of course that makes their original post brilliant because it's had so much engagement, because I'm not spending that much time focusing on my page. It's always for me about what's happening in my group. And then Friday, you can talk about, like, it all depends on what type of business you've got. But if you've got a business where people would be thinking more about what you guys do on the weekend, then you can be leading it into that. Or for me, I'm like, okay, is this time for you to go and rest and recharge? Or is this where you put half a day aside and you work on your business? So I do a lot of talking about the working on your business compared to the in your business. And I created quite some time ago when I was working on my Hello Media strategies. And one of those was having CEO Day. So CEO Day is when I don't work with clients. I don't do any of that. I just work with my team and I work on the business and developing the new programs and workshops and all that kind of stuff. But it's really way more bigger picture stuff, which is really exciting because nobody does it. You'll find that, honestly, if you surveyed 10 people, they would almost all say, oh no, I'm just too busy. I'm working in my business all the time. So it's really important to take that step back. So I aim to have all of Fridays usually doing that. It's quite rare, if I'm to be honest, at the moment, because I'm so flat out that I'm having to fit clients in on my CEO Day. But it's always my intention to have Fridays cleared out. And so that to me is an easy Monday to Friday strategy, because as long as you have written down in your Airtable or whatever you want to use, what you actually have got going on each day, then you don't have to think about it. So with Airtable, we've got, so for example, Motivation Monday, then there'll be the quote next to it. And then there'll be like, where's it going to go? Is it going to go in the Facebook group and on Instagram? And I never have the one thing going in all the places at all the same time. So we usually have a few things for Monday and a few things for Tuesday, etc., because they all go to different places. Then the next column will be what time it might be posted. And of course, you're going to look at your insights for that and know, when are your people around, etc. Then the next bit will be the caption that's going to go with it. The next column could be the hashtags. And then the next column is the actual graphic that's been pre-created in Canva. But one thing that you 100% must remember is evergreen content. If there's one thing you take away today after the 80-20 rule, it's evergreen content, which means stuff that you can use over and over and over and over and over. So stuff that I had on Instagram 2 years ago that did really well, bloody well repost it. Why wouldn't you? Because it did super well and you got different followers now. And of course, every day people are seeing different things. So repost it. And if you've got a post that you loved and that you spent ages on, but no one loved it back, repost that, but using a different caption. So same graphic, different caption. If that still doesn't go well, then do it again, but same different graphic, but same caption. So just keep mixing it up and keep trying, but don't just keep trying to reinvent stuff all the time when you've got so much stuff to work on. So I want to tell you how we do it for content. So the first thing I do is I write a blog. Now, usually these days it's come about. So I do my digital marketing webinar on a Monday. I've already created my presentation for that. And I'm very firm on setting time limits for things. So I schedule in my calendar, I only have 60 minutes to create that entire presentation for Monday. So whether I do that on the Friday or on the Monday morning or whatever, that's all I'm allowed to do. And if it's not finished, it's just got to be out we go, because I'm a chronic perfectionist and I've got to keep focusing on that line that done is better than perfect, because otherwise I'm never finished. So boom, the first thing is schedule your time. The second thing is my team are then transcribing from my webinar. So how that works is, have you guys ever heard of Otter? So it's otter.ai. It's a free app for your phone, and you can also use it on your computer. So it's literally every one of my words coming out is being transcribed, either recorded voice or just turned into words. You then take that, turn that into a blog post or 3 blog posts, depending on, what great content was coming out of my mouth. Then from that, we then create the graphics, one graphic that would go with the blog post, one graphic that would be used then on Instagram, and one graphic for, say, MailChimp. Then I would then create maybe 5 more social media posts out of that one blog post that I could use over 5 different weeks. And Bob's your uncle, one blog post just came up with so much content, including my newsletter. So that is my top tip about how to get content going out there. So number one is schedule what happens on a Monday, on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday, on a Thursday, and a Friday, and then just repeat that over and over and over. And then write that blog post. Just set aside 1 hour or 3 hours, or if you're in a flow, then write 4 blog posts in one go. Like, that's a really important thing. So important to get traffic to your website by using blog posts, but then turn that into a newsletter, and then all of that turns into social media posts as well.
Great tips. I love the otter.ai. I'd never heard of it, but I'll definitely look that one up. That's a great resource. Thank you.
Yeah, it's cool.
Kylie, you obviously have seen in your industry since you've been in Hello Media, you explained before you were sort of in this business while you had your product-based businesses. There's been so many changes and so many algorithm shifts and so many, I feel like you start to sort of get your understanding of social media and your groove, and then something changes and it all kind of gets thrown out. I'd love to know what you think the industry will look like in another sort of 5 to 10 years. I know you've been to the seminars over in San Francisco and learnt lots of stuff. I'd love any insight that you can give people, just so you can sort of start to, I guess, get used to the changes and sort of be ahead of the change almost.
Yes. So in March each year, I go over to Social Media Marketing World in San Diego, and I got back a week before lockdown. I was so lucky. And I was watching on the news over there, and it was all about the Australia toilet paper saga. And I was ringing my family going, do I need a new suitcase and just bring loo paper? Because this looks really serious. Anyway, I thought it can't be real. And of course, got back, and sure enough, literally no loo paper anywhere. It was so bizarre. So the coolest thing about Social Media Marketing World this year was video. But as I said before, I don't want to do selfies, and I certainly don't enjoy doing lives. Like, even though I'm happy to speak live on Zoom, I'm not happy to do lives on Instagram or Facebook very often, because I feel like a dick just talking to my phone. Whereas here I can talk to people, and I enjoy that. So what they talked about a lot in the keynote presentations and in the Facebook thing, like all the things, they all keep coming back to video, and how, of course, your post is shown to more people if you're doing video. But the interesting stats show you that video that is raw and video that is real does so much better than video that has been beautifully produced. So you don't need... Oh, as soon as I was about to point out my gecko.
I can hear your gecko.
Yeah. So you don't need to get, well, actually, I feel mean saying that to all the video production companies out there, because you do need to do that for some kind of promo videos, but just for the stuff that you want to use all the time, you don't need to get video specialists in to make that stuff. You can shoot it on your phone. And the one thing that fascinated me was the change in short form video. So people no longer have the attention span nor the time to just be sitting down watching endless stuff. The other thing is, a lot of the time people have their phone on mute. So you need to constantly remember, even when you're doing Instagram lives and stuff, always have captions, because so many people watch it with that sound turned off. Why is that? Because they're naughty and they're watching it in bed when they should be sleeping, or they're watching it while they actually also watching TV or so. Like, it's quite extraordinary, isn't it? How much we're multi-thinging now. We're not just doing one thing. So the short form video is important, not these really long-winded things. And then it was only about 2 months ago that a friend said to me, oh my God, what about Quibi? And I was like, I've never heard of Quibi. And I can't even tell you how excited she was that she knew something digitally that I didn't. She really went on about it. But Quibi, which is Q-U-I, oh, let me just make sure I've got that right. Hang on. Q-U-I, yes, Q-I-B-I. And it is also free. And it is a short form video app. And they have literally made, whether it's documentaries, news, entertainment, dramas, comedies, comedians, all 8 minutes long. And they can be entire series, like 10 in a series, but they're all 8 minutes long, because it's all about that short form video. But what is the most clever thing is that you can watch the Quibi that way or that way. So as you turn your phone, I've never seen anything like it. It just adjusts to however you need to see it. So because they used to say, oh, you can't be filming using your phone like that, because of course then you can't use it on YouTube, but then you can't be filming like that because then you can't be watching it on stories. Like, it's so tricky for people. So take a look at Quibi and move your phone around, and you'll be blown away how clever they've been to do that. And as I said, another free thing. I can't even believe it. And so that's what kept coming up over and over and over. Anyway, to keep going on about the video thing and what's happening in the future is that Mike Stelzner, who's like the all-time guru, he's the one that puts on Social Media Marketing World. And he kept, his big keynote was all about these self-drive cars, you know, that are like 200,000, 300,000, and the way that the world is going with AI. So supposedly in the not too distant future, you said 10 years, what might be happening in 10 years? And I'm like, geez, what about what's happening in 1 year? So that is that you will wake up because your Siri or whatever has told you it's time to wake up. It's already got your calendar loaded into your whole world. So it knows what you're doing for the day. So you get up, the shower automatically turns on, and you get into the shower. Then you come downstairs and the coffee's already been made for you. All of these things are just happening. The car starts when it's the right time. You jump in, and then you sit back and you watch some short form videos all the way to be driven in your self-drive car to your first meeting, because it already knows your whole calendar. It knows where to go, which way to get the, you know, the shortcuts, the whole thing like that. And I just sat back going, how sad is that? And I even think it when I'm seeing little kids like at the farmers markets or at the supermarket that are sitting in a pram with an iPad. I'm like, but what I love about life for me is watching. And as a kid, you might be bored, but you're sitting in the back of the car on a long car ride, and you're looking out the window and you're seeing all the things going on in the world. And when you're in the supermarket being pushed around in your pram, you're just looking at things, at people, at the products on the shelves. And I can't even imagine what this next generation will be like that haven't actually ever observed people or observed weather or like I remember lying on a trampoline with a friend for years, and we would watch clouds and the shape of clouds and things like that. Well, what kid would have done that these days? Because really they're on their device or whatever. So that was an exciting thing to hear about, is how all that would go. But then it turned into like whoa, that's really full on. And so when I came back from that and we're trying to think about that, and how can I make that not happen in my world? But as I said before, my husband's a quadriplegic. So how amazing would a self-drive vehicle be for him? Like, so I'm certainly not against technology and the awesomeness that it can do, but certainly thinking, how can I bring it back and communicate and connect with people? And that is what Facebook are trying to do constantly, is that they want you to be starting up your own communities. Facebook groups, have a little think about that. If you have a Facebook, so take my Facebook page, I will post something on there. You're not going to get it in your notifications. Nobody cares that I've posted something on my Facebook page. But if I put it in my Facebook group and you're regularly in my group, for sure, in the notifications, there will be that Kylie posted and then boom, and you go in there. You'll even get notifications that other people commented on it, etc., etc. So your personal Facebook pages, Facebook profile, you should be using that as well to share business stuff. But your Facebook group, if you haven't got a Facebook group now, sort that out fast, because you really, really need one, because that's where you're going to get all the traction. So video. And then the next thing was community. So all about community. So even if your Facebook group's not about business, but it's about some kind of common interest. So I work a lot with clients on how to do a Facebook group. Like one client at the moment, the Feng Shui Store and More, and she's a super expert on Feng Shui. So it's like, stop that group being called the Feng Shui Store and More, because immediately we know we're trying to be sold to. So remove that and just call it Feng Shui and More. Let's stop putting products in there, and let's start you sharing your knowledge about Feng Shui. So of course the group's going to be growing. Then people are, welcome to share their stuff about Feng Shui. You no longer then are competing with people in your industry. You're sharing and collaborating. So that's number 3 words. So first word was video. Second word was community. Third word was collaborating. Who can you collaborate with and think long-term collaborations with? So I just started a thing on Fridays. We just started last week, and it's a collaboration, another free webinar, but it's just a half hour. It's called Bite-Sized Conversations with this amazing girl, Jenny Walk. and she's a business coach specializing in processes and stuff, whereas I specialize in digital. So we're quite a good little marriage there, and fun. Now, again, it's free. It's just us offering. But then, of course, as soon as you collaborate, it goes out to her audience and my audience. So we're already widening our reach by doing that. So if you guys think, who can I collaborate on things with? How can I create more video without worrying that it's not perfect and then I've just shot it on my phone or created it using InVideo or something, which is a super cheap platform. You can even make videos from within Canva. And then the other thing was, how can I really make a better community around me so that people want to know more about what I do, but then they're going to learn from me. Yeah.
I love the idea of community and collaboration. I've always felt that's been such a powerful medium in business and success. I think the people that do that really well see success, and it's not metric success, but just they love what they do. Like you said earlier, you wake up every day, you love what you do. And I think that comes from having a great community and a great sense of connection and collaboration. And it can be with competitors. So I love what you said before, where you have so much to learn from other people. And once you take away the hard sell and you become really about the purpose and what you're trying to create, it becomes a much more enjoyable experience. You don't wake up feeling so desperate to sell. You wake up and you can't wait to see who you're going to meet and who you're going to connect with. So I love that. And Deb just said, great philosophers have said, be careful of the things that stop you thinking, reflecting, and having a mind of your own. And discussion groups are an awesome way to connect, discuss, and reflect. I totally agree.
Absolutely. And Dee, I want to point out for those listening and watching about you and connecting and collaborating, because you and I were doing that before it was even a thing. So do you remember way back with those product businesses? And we were doing those at expos, collaborating to collect email addresses. We would do collaborating to give out prizes and giveaways, because that was going out to your audience, my audience, and the other 5 people or 10 people that were also involved. So by doing that together, it's less work for everybody, but it's reaching so many more people. And our email databases were growing phenomenally. And also so were our social channels. But as you know, I'm all about the email addresses. And so that was so important back then. But also same with even just at the expos, meeting your neighbors, rather than thinking that, oh, crikey, if someone stops and buys from them, then they may not be able to buy from me. We were the opposite. Go over and see Dee over there because she's doing blah, 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 blah. Then, of course, we'd go out at night and drink too much. But the whole point was the collaborating and the communicating and the supporting each other, lifting each other up, not thinking of each other as competition.
I love that, Kylie, and I totally agree with you. And I think we had such a vibe going on at those expos. I always, doing the setup and the prep and everything is always so exhausting, but I just couldn't wait to get there to see you all. And then hang out after the Friday night, the first night, and we'd all hang out, and then we'd see someone that didn't have any friends and we'd grab them and be like, come and hang with us. We're going to go out and do karaoke. And we just had this kind of community. And you're right, we did utilize that really well online. And I remember, I think at one stage we had like 500,000 people reach between our email, and our Facebook pages. And it didn't take me a lot of effort to do that. It was literally just saying, hey, Kylie, can you share this new product? Or, hey, Greg, can we do a giveaway with your MyLight? And it was really simple. And I think people really overlook their opportunities. I think even whatever your opportunity is, and I'll give an example, which is obviously because of the Raw Awards being on. I think there's 128 people in the Raw Awards Facebook group, which is a private group, and they're all up in a group. Yeah, it's awesome. And so I think that I'd love to see people really taking momentum and connecting, because if I could have got everybody in a room this year, like we would do at the PBC Expo, I would have had people introduced and married up and, not married up, but I would have connected people and said, hey, you'd be a great fit for you. And, oh my gosh, you do this and she does that. And I think you really have to sort of go outside of your comfort zone and kind of, like everyone's pages and do a little shout out and share in that love, because there is such a power, and that power is such an organic power when it comes to social media. Would you agree? It's not, you get such a boost in that.
And I just really like to pick up on one point that you said about how many people did you say you had in that group?
In the Raw Awards entrance, there's 128 business owners. Yeah.
So one of the things, so way back when, and I used to go and speak at things and whatever, and often the first thing, and particularly if there was a Q&A thing, and that's the first question someone would be like, how many people do you have on your Instagram? And I'm like, and what was the relevance of that? So what your question should have been is, what kind of engagement do you get on your Instagram? Because I'd rather have 100 followers only. If 99 of those were engaged, I'm winning. If I've got 10,000 followers and barely anyone ever responds, then what's the point? So I think our biggest problem in social media world right now is this whole numbers game, because that's, you guys just got to stop worrying. And I think it really causes a lot of stress for people, particularly startups, that they have no followers. So what are we going to do with that? It's like, don't worry. You put the stuff out there, you start sharing, you use your hashtags well, you share other people's content, etc. You tag people in things, and you will grow organically. You shouldn't be trying to buy followers and all that, because it looks, and someone even said to me, oh, I would never use the 30 hashtags because I was told it looks really naff. Or it makes you look like a beginner. And I'm like, oh my God, Instagram gives you 30 hashtags because they want you to use 30 hashtags. Go for it. That's 30 opportunities to be found. Why wouldn't you? I find that so odd. So I think the main thing is people got to stop thinking about what looks right or doesn't look right. If it fits well with your business and your brand, then go for it and try it out. And if it doesn't work, try something else.
Yeah, constantly explore and play, isn't it? We used to play a lot. I mean, you know, in that space, it's okay to try different things. Don't be afraid to go outside of what you think you should be doing. And I liked when you touched on too, Kylie, that people have sometimes a bit of a perspective that they need to go on. I mean, you mentioned about buying likes, and I have seen this so many businesses. I remember back in the day, even one of my competitors on the market, you know, I was at about 36,000 on our Facebook page, and then all of a sudden they went up to 50,000, like from 10. And I remember going, like, what did they do? And just thought, oh, it's so obvious that they've bought, you know, likes. Can you talk about the risks in how much that's going to kill your engagement and really like set your business back? Because I feel like, you know, you're tempted, new businesses particularly are tempted just to buy, I'm just going to buy 1,000 likes because it's $8 from India, and they'll have 1,000 people on their social media. But what are the risks to that in terms of their business?
There are so many risks, but I also think if you go and look at someone that you think is doing really, really well, and maybe that's because they've got a lot of followers or something, don't look at the followers, go and look at the last post or the last 5 posts and see what was the story with the likes, what was the story with the comments, what was the story with people tagging people in it, because that's what really counts. So I'll give you my little analogy of what I believe is a good thing. So think about the Olympic medals, and if you get a like, that's a bronze medal. So it's good, but it's like you could do better than a bronze medal. If you get a comment, that's a silver medal. That's great, because a comment gives you the opportunity. Well, comment first of all means your content was interesting enough that you stopped scrolling and they actually stopped, read it, looked at it, and then commented. So that's great. It also gives you the opportunity to comment back, you know, and then you already started a little relationship then, which is lovely. The gold medal though, and there's 2 things for gold. The first one is if somebody shares your content. So on Facebook, that would obviously be sharing to their page or their personal or wherever. And on Instagram, that would be sharing into their stories. That's winning, because that's new eyeballs on your stuff that hadn't been seen before. And if they like it, then they'll probably go over and follow you. The other second equal gold medal, did that make sense? Second equal? No, equal gold medal. That's for if somebody tags a friend. So if you say in your caption, oh, tag a friend who really needs to know about this or something, then that's winning, because if that was Nikki, for example, being tagged in Joanna's post, and then Joanna's like, yes, winning, because Nikki hadn't seen that post before. She didn't even know that you even existed. So again, that's new eyeballs on something that's been seen before. So that's my little analogy of the Olympic medals, of how to think about that. So coming back to the bought likes and stuff, if you bought likes, who's going to do any of that? No one, because they're not there because they found you and liked you and wanted to know about what you're doing. They're just there because they're part of some massive pool. And it's not just social media bought likes. There's also email database that you can do database mining and blah, blah, blah. Don't buy any of those either, because they're not your dream clients or customers. They're not your ideal people that are ever going to work with you. So it kills your reach for starters. And the more that kills your reach, the less that Instagram or Facebook are going to show your stuff to more people. So if you think about a funnel, but a backwards funnel. So you create a post and it's going to go, like, say you have 100 followers. You do a post and it goes out to this many people. So as soon as you get a tiny little bit of engagement on that post, Facebook shows it to a few more people. If there's a little bit more engagement, and it goes out and out and out and out and out. If you do a post and you get no engagement at all, then by that afternoon, it's just gone like that, and no one's ever going to see it. It's just literally disappeared. Very destroying for you, because you put so much effort into creating that post. So the first thing you want to do is find a way to get some great engagement straight up. And my one top tip for that is ask a question, because everybody wants to give their opinion. So back in Rainbows and Clover days, for example, this is when I first started doing this tactic, and it was a winner. So I would design something and I did it in 2 colors, and I would do a little collage using one of those great little apps. It's a free app from Instagram called, it's one of my favorites, Layout. So I would put up the red version and the blue version, and on the bottom in the caption, you go red or blue. That's it. And in the comments, you can be sure everybody wants to give their opinion on red or blue. So it can be on anything else. It can literally be like, what's even your favorite emoji? Or drop an emoji in the comment if you da-da-da-da. Or type yes if you want to be careful about the whole clickbait stuff. So you want to do it authentically. But that's how you're going to get engagement, is by engaging with people and asking for them. But then don't ignore them. Then you've actually got to respond to them and laugh with them, or whatever it is. Or it could be, you know, tag a friend that blah, blah, blah. So the whole thing about bought stuff is that A, they're not going to engage with any of your stuff. B, Instagram and Facebook, particularly Instagram, go out there and do these giant sweeps, and they just delete all these old fake accounts and stuff. And then what you bought and got yourself to 10,000, all of a sudden you're down to 3,000. And that's not a good look either. Like, that just looks silly. Up, down, up, down, up, down. And you just wasted money. But more than anything, and the biggest thing I think that where it's damaging, is the fact that if nobody is commenting on your post and you're getting nothing from it, Facebook or Instagram do not deem you as particularly worthy content. It's content that nobody really wants to know about. So you're putting the stuff out there and no one is responding. And so fewer and fewer and fewer posts are going to be seen by anyone. And then you're kind of like, why am I even bothering? So what is the moral of the story? Don't buy followers.
Great advice. And it's so true. I like the idea of, you know, being more okay with your slow and steady growth, and acquiring the right customers, and creating, again, that community and that connection within that space that is going to serve your business and you. Because I think once you try and, you know, we get told fake it till you make it, but I think, like you said, it's a very dangerous game that you play, because particularly when you go into things like Google AdWords and Facebook ads, you're going to pay a lot more for those dodgy likes that aren't even real people. They're bots from goodness knows where. So yeah, great advice. I love that. I'd love to open up to people if they have a question, to pick your brain while you're here. Does anyone have a question for Kylie while I've got her here? Happy Joe?
Hi, I'm Happy Joe. Can you hear me?
Yeah, gotcha. All yours, Joe.
Oh, hi. Kylie, you're amazing. You're just down the road from me. I'm in sunny Tweed Heads.
Oh, no way. I'm in Bangalore.
Yeah, I know. We're neighbours. And Dee has said we need to connect one day, so I would love to do that.
Yeah,
anyway,
you're especially amazing. Now that the bubble's open.
Oh, we're in the bubble. Yeah, no, look, it's just been invaluable what you've taught me. 11 years in business, and I'm still learning every day. But
that's the way it should be.
Yeah, look, I try my hardest to post as much as I can, but I really need to change my strategy. But I suppose the biggest thing, I'm good at Facebook, but I really struggle with Instagram. And how do you find the best hashtags? That's
Oh, I love the topic of hashtags.
yeah. How do you do that thing?
And I love hashtags in general, actually, and I love being silly with hashtags and just playing with them. But also, hashtag is such a great way to grow. Really, really great way to grow. Yeah. So the first trick or tip with hashtags is don't have one collection. If you have one collection of 30 and you use them over and over and over, you'll be penalized for sure. So I make sure I have at least, I was going to say 3, but I've probably got 10 collections of hashtags. And within that, there's only around 15 per collection. And maybe then 5 extras on top that I would use every time. Like, for example, hashtag Hello Media or something. Then I'm always leaving room for at least 5 to 10 that are fresh hashtags with each post. So I'm not writing out hashtags every time, for goodness sakes, no. I'm just going copy and paste in there, and then I'm adding just a few little extra ones. So I was working with a client this morning. She has a linen clothing business. So we were working on her content, and, you know, we create graphics together and then set up a whole stuff. And so we schedule a week's worth of stuff, and then I see her go the next week, and off we go. So what we'll do, like, for example, it might say plus size linen. It might say pink spot linen, pink spot dress, blah, blah, blah. Those are just the ones that are describing exactly what's going on in that picture. But then behind the scenes, we've got Byron Bay lifestyle. I mean, it's not behind the scenes, you know, also within those hashtags, because she is a Byron Bay business and she does local markets. So if that post was talking about being at the Lismore showgrounds for a market, there will be, you know, love Lismore, Lismore come to the heart, you know, all their hashtags. So the key is whatever that post is about, find out what hashtags are going on. So that's why it's very overwhelming if you haven't pre-prepared your hashtags and created them. So if you go to Instagram, and it's much easier to do it on a desktop. So go to Instagram, type in a hashtag that you might think, and then see what's coming up underneath it, because it will give you lots and lots and lots of suggestions. But then my top tip of the day is go to a website, like I think the one I use is called IQ hashtags, and put your collection of 30 hashtags in there. It's free, and go scan it, and then it will tell you if you've removed the banned hashtags, if you've removed any, because if you've used any, because banned hashtags are the weirdest thing in the world. Like at Easter time, Easter hashtag is banned. Like boho is banned. I mean, it's very obvious that hump day would be banned, but it's really weird what they keep banning. And it's the reason they ban it is because, for example, if I was using Hello Media all the time, like that's pretty innocent, but then someone was posting really naughty things all the time and using hashtag Hello Media, they would then ban hashtag Hello Media, because it would have been reported, and so boom, then wipe out that hashtag. So sometimes hashtags are only banned for a very short time, other times they're banned forever. Okay. So you don't want to use a banned hashtag, that's for sure, because you will find all sorts of problems happen. So make sure that you create your collections and then put them through that IQ hashtag.
ICUE? IQ.
No, just have a little quick look behind the scenes. IQ, it's IQ, so as in letter I, letter Q, then hashtags.com.
Okay. So people have said, I've been to a lot of conferences and stuff, they've said, don't use hashtags that have millions of people. Like, you've got to look at how many people, you know, how big they are or how small they are, you know, and that's where I struggle, because I'm in childcare, right? So there's daycare, there's kindergartens, there's preschools.
So don't use daycare, for example, because then that's all daycares in the world. So you don't want to use that. You would want to use Tweed Heads daycare, Coolangatta daycare, you know, all the areas around you daycare. Okay. But in terms of the big hashtags, so there's no reason why you can't, like Byron Bay is a big hashtag. So there's no reason why you can't use that hashtag if it's relevant to your post, because it just might give you a shot at trending for a short time. But my suggestion always is just divide it into 3, your 30 hashtags. So 10 biggies, well, not super big, but biggish, 10 middle size, and 10 little. There's actually much better stats out there that tell you exactly what you should be mixing up. But for me, that's just the easiest way. When you're starting to try and figure out your hashtag collections, that's a good way to go.
Awesome. Thank you. You're
And
great.
You're welcome.
And to add to what Kylie said too, I remember when I first started out, I had my notes, you know, the app on your phone that you have that's just a notepad. So I would save the hashtags in my notepad for those different things. So if I wanted to do an Instagram post, I would just go to notes and copy, and then I would paste it into the post. And I also do it with my Facebook Messenger. I actually message myself. So I go to message Danielle Stearman and I add the content in there. So if I'm rushing around during the day and think, oh, that's cool, I'm going to post that, I can go straight into the message for myself and just copy the hashtags and smash them straight in. And it just saves me that, you know, little bit of time and having to think on the fly as well. So it's a good way to be pre-prepped.
I just like to back that up. I also use notes on my phone, and I also use Messenger to myself. Yes.
Oh, I knew I was cool. I knew I was on trend somewhere along the way. Does anyone else have a question for Kylie while I have her here? Deb, would you like to ask a question? You've been chatting away in the chat. She said, women are awesome collaborators.
Yes.
But I think sometimes we get in our heads a little bit too, don't we, about collaboration? Sometimes you get a bit scared and think you have imposter syndrome, or you think, am I going to take the risk and go and say hi? But it's always worth it. You came over, I remember meeting you, Kylie, and you had blue hair, as blue as my top, blue hair. And that's the first time I met you, and I thought you were fabulous. Couldn't wait to go to the next expo to see what color your hair was. I think it was red or pink the next time.
Yeah,
and
it was.
Sorry, Deb, did you have a question?
No, look, I just think that Kylie gave some really important information about, you know, when you're putting things out on social media and so forth, the bottom line is not to take it personally. It's like, it's really important to keep it separate. You know, this is a business, and to look at it objectively and not take it on personally, because that can be really soul destroying for anybody. So I just thought that was really great advice, that you know, when you were talking about when you put out a great post and you put so much energy into it and so much time and nothing happens, it's just like, you know, it's about me, but it's actually not. It's about the things going on behind the scenes with Facebook or the social media, or people aren't, you know, connected at that time. So if you've got a product or a service that you really believe in and you're passionate about, what you said was, you know, about growing it organically and connecting with the people who are really your people. I thought that was brilliant. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Deb. I've got a little tip. So everyone sitting in this group right now, if they were to go away and connect on Facebook, so all become each other's friends, then you start a little messenger group, and then you become each other's cheerleaders. So then Joanna puts out a post and everybody in this group go and engage with her. So she can jump into the messenger group and say, just posted, and then over you go and you give some little love to that. So you can also do that with Instagram. You can do a little engagement pod, and it's a nice thing. It's a little way of sharing with each other and supporting each other and collaborating, of course, because the sooner you get a comment on your post, the better, the more that Facebook or Instagram will show it to people. So yeah, finding people to hook up with, and make sure it's not just people in your industry. So Julia, I'm not sure what you do, but maybe you do, you know, cloth nappies. It's got nothing to do. Oh, baby nail trimmer. Well, there you go. I was somehow on the right track. So then you're not really totally relevant to what Joanna's doing, but you go and comment on all of her stuff. It's great, and vice versa. Get Nikki involved in there, get Deb involved, get Anna involved. You're all winning then.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
I did have a question for you, actually. Thanks again for all that fantastic information. I'm actually going to take this video and re-listen to it, because there was just so much going on there. I was trying to write notes as fast as I could and, you know, whatnot.
Thank you.
But I wanted to ask you.
Oh, sorry. Let me just interrupt to say, next time you don't need to write notes, because you can just use Otter.
Oh, there you go. See?
Although people do say that you absorb more as you write it, but I can never write fast enough. So I'll just Otter it, and then I'll edit it later on and put the chunks aside that I want. Anyway, back to you.
That's awesome. The growing trend of Pinterest and YouTube, with Instagram and Facebook, I seem to be doing okay with those. I have slow, I'm sell snail, so it's going to be slow. But I'm finding that with YouTube optimization and Pinterest optimization, that anytime I do something on Pinterest and just put the tiniest bit of money behind it, it seems to just explode. What's your take on integrating all the social media platforms? So you post on Instagram, it posts on Facebook, then it links to YouTube, and it links to your Pinterest, and then it feeds back into, like, once you've integrated them all into each other with your pixel. And I have a social media marketer myself. This isn't me knowing what I'm doing. This is, I work with an amazing woman that knows all the things. Yes, your take on Pinterest and YouTube and their relevance and importance, and what's the next big thing that we should sort of be getting behind before it gets big?
So at Social Media Marketing World, the big thing was you've got to get on TikTok. Then what was fascinating is that they couldn't get speakers to talk at Social Media Marketing World about TikTok because there were not enough experts in it. So the beautiful thing when you jump on something in its early days is that you have unlimited potential with it. You know, you can follow it, like Dee and I with the early days of Facebook, and how very quickly you can grow massively. But you really know it. You know it well because you're just involved in it. So for me, I didn't take that on board when I went away and went harder into TikTok because I don't like TikTok, and I'm a big believer in just because the platforms are there doesn't mean you need to be on them. So the first question always is, where are your people? Where are they hanging out? And like the amount of people that come to me and go, no, I'm not going to use Facebook because I just don't like it. I'm like, who cares if you don't like it? Are your customers on Facebook? Yeah. If they are, you need to be there, and you need to just get over yourself and dedicate, whether it's 10 minutes a day, that's all. It's a tiny amount of your life. But for example, I'm not on Twitter. Yes, some of my clients would be on Twitter, but I don't care because I don't like Twitter myself. So I'm not going to hang out there. So if you first of all look at where are all your people hanging out, and then choose the ones that resonate best with you. But without a doubt, it's got to be Facebook. So even when I'm talking with corporates, which is rare because I don't like working with corporates, but even when I am, and then they'll go to me, well, corporate, clearly we're not on Facebook. And I'm like, not true, because behind every corporate business is a person. And is that person on Facebook? Probably yes. So you need to be wherever those people are that you're wanting to reach. So for you, it might be Pinterest. I had phenomenal success with Pinterest back in my Rainbows and Clover days, and in a very weird way. So I would put up, I'd pin pictures from my website to Pinterest, and next thing I'd be getting an order for a teepee from Norway, and the freight would cost them double what the teepee had. And I'm like, do you not just have cream organic teepees in Norway? Like, how weird is that? But it was great, totally great. So I really get the power of it, which is amazing. So Pinterest is such an underutilized resource. It's like what you just told me before about great success. I see that success with so many people, but never before.
Baby shower gift ideas. Yeah. That's what people are pinning.
Yes, but not the spending. I don't know why at the moment you're needing to do ads with it, because there's so many opportunities. And the important thing to remember is, don't think of Pinterest like a social media channel. No, and the same with YouTube in a way, because it's not about the followers that's the important bit on Pinterest. It's about what kind of traffic's going over to your site from it. It's about how many times your pins are being viewed more than, like, I've got incredible analytics for my business on Pinterest. Yet I don't even know. Do I even have 10 followers? I don't know. I haven't even really looked, but there's bound to be virtually none. But what's going on for my pins is amazing, like amazing. Yeah. So making infographics, making all kinds of things. But again, bring it back to your blog. So first thing always is write your blog post, create a graphic for it, maybe add an infographic for it. Obviously all this is going on with Canva. And even though I'm a graphic designer, I am a huge advocate for Canva because A, it was designed by an Australian woman, go her. And B, because it's less than $5 a week for Canva Pro. And then you can use that little resize option. So just before I came on, I was teaching a 4-hour Canva webinar. And awesome. So I taught that. So it was 4 hours last week, 4 hours this week. And so they were learning how to, first of all, we made logos. Then we made symbols that go with your logo so you could use it for your favicon on your website. Then we created an Instagram post, and then we put those logos into there because, of course, they've got their transparent background. Then we're turning the Instagram posts into videos that are like 4 things long, and then we're adding music to them. So then today they came along with all their practice stuff, and then we created Facebook covers that were actual video, not just things turned into video, but using Canva's videos. And then we added words and we added music, and then they all went away with these amazing Facebook cover images or videos that just draw people in. So what the key takeaway from that, though, is then from that, then they were like, oh, that's so cool. What should we do? What else can we do with that? And I'm like, now you can click resize and make it Pinterest size. Now you can click resize and make it for Instagram stories. Like, there's just so many endless options. So there's no reason why when I say, okay, you write a blog and then you do the graphic for it, then you do the Instagram graphic. And like, I would hope nobody would go, oh my God, there's so many graphics, because actually it's like, boom, do it in Canva and you're just laughing in 10 minutes. So yes, So yes to Pinterest, 100%, absolutely. In terms of YouTube, the speaker on my meetup last night was talking about that a fair bit and saying how important that is for SEO, for Google, is what you're doing on YouTube, which is fascinating. But if I have one top tip, I don't know how many times I've said that tonight, but if there's one top tip about YouTube, it is do not share from YouTube to Facebook ever. Facebook will penalize you for that. You must upload to YouTube and do your own thing with YouTube, and then upload to Facebook separately and do your own thing with Facebook. But never, ever go YouTube to Facebook, because Facebook hates YouTube. They're their biggest competition, and they're trying to, get rid of them with all their video content that they're offering.
So you learn something new every day, and I just learned something new. I did not know that, Kylie. That's a great tip.
Good.
Yeah. Great tip. And actually, it's funny because I know that Scott has shared videos before from YouTube and always gets quite, depressed that they don't kind of get the engagement. So I'll let him know. I didn't even think, but you're right. They are the biggest competitors for one another. So they're not going to promote each other in any way, shape or form.
As little as you can, cross post, as little as you can. Try and always, because they want you to be on their platform. So be on the platform, engage on the platform and all that kind of stuff, but make it fresh. But also, again, back to the little resize, why would you share from YouTube, which is like more like a Facebook cover size, to Facebook post, which is not that same size? So always make sure that, like, if I was going to be posting on Facebook, I would be fine with it being an Instagram square, but I don't want it to be a YouTube size.
And you're right, because Deb just said YouTube is my favorite site, kept me alive during COVID lockdown, and there's a demographic for you. So exactly what you said, because finding out where your customers live, what do they use, what are their platforms that make them tick. And I'm a lot like you, Kylie. Facebook and Instagram, that's my jam. Everything else I'm very lazy on and I don't really utilize, because I know Facebook, fairly well, and Instagram, it's fairly straightforward. So I sort of stick in those lanes. But you're right, you really need to explore where your perfect customers kind of live, so you can tap into those channels. But I also liked your advice that you don't have to be everywhere and on everything, because I think then you sort of don't do things well either. It's very hard to keep a really active, great engagement on your Facebook page and your Instagram, and when you try and spread like an octopus across 8 different platforms, unless you've got a huge social media team and marketing team, you're never going to do all of them really well. You're going to be spending 120 hours a week pulling your hair out, and you're going to, you won't do it well. So I really liked that tip.
Absolutely. And make sure it's your voice that you're speaking with, even though you've got a team. And I think it was Julia that said she's got a social media person doing it all, but make sure it's Julia's voice. So I have a team behind me as well, but then they have it all sitting there in Airtable for me, and then I jump in and then I tick the approved box, and I would edit every single caption, because it's got to be said in the way that I would say it. And don't be afraid of having that voice. There's one thing I would say about that, but we're all very, very different. But one thing I never do, even though I'm a chronic swearer in my personal life, and I love swearing, especially the F-bomb.
I think that's why we get along.
But I never, ever, ever swear in my business on social media or in a blog or anything like that, for that matter, because it can be so offensive to some people. I never, ever talk religion and share my views on that. And I never, ever, ever talk politics, even though many times I've wanted to say, oh my God, Trump, what? But I just figured, let's not polarize issues here. And I learned that back in Rainbows and Clover days in the very early days, because it was a product that it was the nappy bag that fitted X amount of cloth nappies in it. And people would be like, oh, what the hell? Why don't you show us with disposable nappies? And I would want to do blog posts about, you know, why you should use cloth nappies and whatever. You know, this is a long time ago now, but before there were good disposable nappies, etc. And I really realized it polarized people a lot, and I didn't want to do that. So it's not that I want to be everyone's friend, because that's never going to happen, but I also don't want to be making people aggro. In my own personal life, sure, I'm happy with a great debate, but certainly not in business.
That's another stellar tip. And I want to share a little story that touches on that with you. Started my business and moved down to Port Fairy. The local politician, who at the time was the state premier, actually came out to a market that I was doing, and I didn't vote for him. He was being such a pro advocate for my business, and we got lots of media around it. I've never showed my political hand on business. You're right. I don't talk things that are really high debatable. You know, anytime there's sort of a trend, I think even businesses that we've just had the Black Lives Matter movement, we've had debates on vaccination, we've had debates on political sides of the fence, we've had debates on religion, even COVID discussions. You have to be really careful, because you have to understand that it's okay to have your own personal opinion, but as soon as you put that out on a business platform, you essentially isolate 50% of your market, and it's going to be really hard to get them back, because then you've showed your sort of, you know, hand, and people get really savage. So I've seen great businesses. I've seen a really good influencer right now having a huge debate right now about the US stuff that's going on with the political election, and is making his voice very clear and very known. And I think he's dropped about 100,000 followers on, you know, and basically not apologizing. And I think it makes me as a brand owner really nervous, because now I can, you know, we were going to do stuff, and now I'm considering, like, I don't know that I'm going to do that now. I'm not sure we're going to go down that road, because I don't want my brand to look like, even if I agree with him, it's just not something I'm prepared to put my brand at the forefront of any kind of political debate, or any debate that is really heated. Yeah.
So important. Even though I raved before about the importance of collaborations, I probably should have said exactly what you just did. Is actually, it's even more important who you do those collaborations with. So that's why when I was talking about Jenny and I and doing this thing on a Friday, we met a year ago and we instantly clicked, and we have very, very similar values. And that's why I know none of our stuff is scripted. We're going live and we're just going for it. But I don't feel nervous or worried at something that she might say. So I would not, I just met Nikki now, I'm not going to say, hey, Nikki, let's do a live tomorrow and have a chat, because I don't know what Nikki might want to talk about or what might come out. So although my husband always says you never know what's going to come out of my mouth, but when it comes to business, I'm always going to be really aware of, you know, keep it behind the scenes.
It's a great advice. Be careful who you do business with, because the wrong person in your business circle can absolutely make you look just as awful. Even if your views are very different, the wrong people in your tribe can do just as much damage for your reputation without you having to say a word.
Yeah. So let's look at Black Lives Matter and the amount of people that put in Australia that put up a black box on that one day. So I thought long and hard about that, and I had a lot of discussions with other business owners behind the scenes, particularly other digital marketers, and say, what do you reckon about this? What are you going to do? Because obviously from going to social media marketing world and from, you know, meeting so many people over there, and I follow a lot of them, and particularly my gurus and stuff, and of course they were all going hard out in it, and I loved that they were, and I learned so much that I didn't even know anything about before. And so I really respected what was going on. And they would do it on purpose and say, like one of them, Tyler McCall, is this amazing Instagrammer. And he would say, I am horrified. We've been having team meetings going, we never feature Black people. It's not intentionally that we don't, we just haven't been. That is going to change from this day on. And I'm going to seek out all the amazing Black digital marketers and tell you about them and blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to purposely go and follow them. And I loved that he had owned that he hadn't done that well and that he was going to fix that. And he really has ever since. It's been amazing. But then you see some of them, particularly here, just jumping on the bandwagon, putting up their black thing, whatever. And it's like, it could have been more respectful to actually do nothing on that day. It certainly would have been respectful to remove your Facebook ads and all that kind of stuff. But what about taking it a step further and acknowledging Black history and stuff in Australia? So not trying to jump on the whole American thing, but use that as a starting point and go, hey, let's have the Australian discussion. That would be appropriate for some businesses and not for others. Like, it all depends what space you're in and all of that. But I think the jumping on the bandwagon thing can be so bad in some ways too. So you just got to be really careful about what's going on and who your audience is, and you got to know your audience really well. And
yeah, you're right. Yeah, sorry to cut you off. It comes across really ingenuine, I find, when people just post a photo. And I also find it interesting that when a lot of these things trend, you know, whether there's fires in California or we've had, you know, massacres, or we've had, you know, the 9/11 thing, people post photos. And then do you notice they make it about themselves? It's not actually, like you said, they don't actually try and be a voice and share a message or share a story about what actually is going on. They try and make it about themselves. I always find those people so off-putting, and they're the first I unfollow. As soon as it comes up, I'm like, yuck, and you're gone off my feed. So yeah, absolutely. It's great advice.
I had this shoe client, and when all the fires were going on at the beginning of this year or end of last year, and particularly in my area, like, we couldn't have any of our windows open. It was thick smoke all the time. It was horrible. And the shoe client was on the Gold Coast, and he was just adamant, not one post about the fires. No way. We post about my shoes every day. We talk about my shoes, blah, blah. Yes, it's getting louder and louder.
He's a happy gecko.
Yeah. And I just kept saying to him, but you're going to lose authentic followers because of your lack of compassion and all of that. So I said, let me give you some examples of what you could do. So for example, Celeste Barber was doing some really great stuff. So I said, just share some of her stuff and stop posting about your shoes just for 3 days, and share what other people are doing. Do one about the Red Cross. Do one about, you know, beautiful firefighters that are volunteers and rescued a koala, whatever it is. Do something, and all you got to write is thank you. Thank you to our people out there that are doing stuff, but just stop trying to sell. Hello, back to 80-20 rule. And he was amazed. He took my advice for 3 days, and he was amazed the amount of people that were loving his stuff and that were tagging people in it and sharing it and all of that. And I was like, dude, you know, sometimes you've just got to be a better human. It was a bit harsh, wasn't it? Telling him that.
No, because you're very honest. That's what I love about you. No holds barred. Tell it how it is, because you're only going to grow from the truth. You're not going to grow if you're constantly fed, you know, the fluff and the you know, the, oh, you're wonderful, everything you're doing is perfect, you don't need to change a thing. There's no growth in that. That's
no. You know. And you know, he didn't. I said to him, because he said, oh, we're going to donate to the fire thing or whatever. And I said, don't even tell anyone. Just do that because you're being a good human. What you've got to do is stop talking about where your business can, what your business can do. Just say what other people are doing that are good, and just leave it at that. Don't try and make it be anything else. And that is so important. Is just sometimes just like I said before, like maybe Thursday might be the day that you promote another business, just anything random. It could be, I had a smoothie from that shop up the road. How good was that? Check that out. You know, so it's not even related to my business, but it's just a shout out for someone else. So that could be something that you implement into your digital marketing strategy. And, you know, just do Thursday shout out or Saturday shout out or whatever.
And I would encourage everyone that has listened to this today to do a shout out about Hello Media and the fabulous Kylie Mowbray-Allen. You are a wealth of knowledge. I miss you on a personal level. I love what you're doing. I love that you're wildly passionate. Thank you so much for stepping up this year and becoming one of our 2020 Raw judges. I know you've had your work cut out for you. I would love for you to close on just, I mean, you've obviously been a judge and seen what's happening behind the scenes. I'd love just some advice for people if this might be their first awards that they've entered. Top 5 go up at the end of this week. They might be feeling a bit nervous if they don't make the top 5. Any advice around the takeaways from the opportunities like this that they have right now without the focus on the win? Do you have any advice around that?
Yes, definitely. So, and you said it earlier, actually. You said, oh, that was my one thing that I learned just now. And it was about not sharing from YouTube to Facebook. I take that into every single thing that I do, which is like, if you can learn one thing and take one thing away from any situation, then you've won. So if you sit back and watch, you may not have even made a top 5, or then go and watch, what are those top 5s doing differently? What are they doing that you like? But just as much as what you see what they're doing that you like, also look at what they're doing that you don't like, because I think you can learn even more from that sometimes than you can from what you like. So if you can just take this entire experience as a learning, but also learn from D, because my goodness, powerhouse, hello, amazing. And I'm all about evolving, right? So never ever think that you're starting with this right now and this is my business and then that's it. So always remember too that everybody needs a coach. So I'm a coach and I still have 2 coaches. I have a business coach and I have a sales coach, yet I'm coaching people, all my day. So always make sure that you all have a coach, whichever direction that you need at the time, and then change that up. You might need a coach in a different area, and then you might need a coach in a different area, but make sure that you really treat that as a priority. So it might be through this experience that you take away, I need to do collaborating, I need to go and find a coach, and it might be through watching these Raw Awards and all the different, there's so many different areas that you're getting to see people that are doing amazing things. So find some people to collaborate with, find people that vibe with you and want to be part of your community, and then go and find yourself a coach for the next part of the growth that you need to work with.
Love it. Create the Cool Kid Club for yourself.
One other top tip about Raw is, if you're not learning and sharing in these groups, then you need to be, because they're all amazing opportunities. Amazing.
Thanks, Kylie. You are a champion. Everyone's just writing in the chat that they've loved today. So I will definitely post all of the links to your how to connect with you. But I'd love, and to your classes, but I'd love for you to just tell people what's the easiest and the best way to get in touch with you. If they've watched this or if they're on the live today, how do we get in touch with you? How can we know more about you and just be connected to Kylie's world?
The best place is to be in the Facebook group, which is Hello Media. But there are 3 questions. So that's a top tip for you guys that are about to go away and start your group. You must have questions to get people into the group, because if they're not willing to answer the question, then they're not even going to be someone that engages in the group anyway. And then one of those questions must always be getting their email address, because of course we're always trying to grow our database. So if you don't answer the questions, my team will just automatically decline you. So that's the best ways to connect with me in the Hello Media Facebook group. And then on my website, it's hellomedia.team. There is no .com.au or anything. It's just hellomedia.team. And on there's a discovery call that you can do with me, excuse me, and all kinds of things like that. But yeah, the best spot is the Hello Media Facebook group and or the website.
This has been so enjoyable. You are so wildly passionate about what you do. I cannot thank you enough again for stepping up this year. Thank you so much for your time today, Kylie. You have dropped so many golden nuggets. I'm like Julia, I'm writing notes as we go. I'm still learning. I love that you're passionate about personal development and growth, and that you're not afraid to say, I still have a coach and I'm still reaching. And I think that's why you've had such success throughout your career. And I have no doubt that you'll have some twists and turns down the track, and you'll be doing other things, and you may even have a Kylie robot AI 2.0 version at some stage. Thank you so much again for your time. Have a fabulous evening, and can't wait to have you be part of this next year. I hope we can do it in person and we can have you on a stage, because I miss you. And thank you everyone for tuning in. And I will share all of Kylie's details so you can connect and be part of her world, because after this, why wouldn't you want to be?
Thanks, Dee. It's been just a pleasure and a privilege. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity, and so good to see you again and meet your posse.
Yeah. Thanks, Kylie. Have a great night. Thanks everyone.
You so much.
Bye.
Bye.